Okay, we are on Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. We are on 13a. The last thing we said yesterday was that they have these the shoots that come out of the palm shoots that come out of the palm tree. Some understand, let's say, from the bottom of the tree, you see, and they come out a lot of stalks together. So it resembles a bundle. And we said you can't use bundles for Succah because we said there's a concern that people will go ahead and use a Sukkah the bundles were placed in the summer, not for the purpose of Succah, but for the purpose of storage. And we said that if the Sukkah was placed not for a point of a shelter, not for a point of protecting from the sun, but for some other purpose. Let's say, good morning, Mr. Batesh. It was placed for the purpose of storage. It has nothing to do with shelter. We said that's not a kosher placement of schach. Schach that's placed for storage is not kosher. But we said this concern is only by a bundle that a person himself tied together. But there's a bundle that's tied together from heaven. What do you mean it's tied together with heaven? That Hashem made it in a way that many of these shoots come out together like a mop. Like a mop is many strings but it's one head holding all the mop pieces. So that's the story. Since this is not something that you bundled up, we say they don't make the rabbis, the Rabbanon do not make the concern, do not forbid you from you using this type of bundle. Good morning, Daniel. Good to see you. Welcome back. So that's the Chodesh Tov. So that's what the Gemara said regarding that bundle. And we explained yesterday because it's not common. It's not, people store, the rabbi's concern was something that a person might store away. The common thing to store is a bundle that you created. A bundle that's made, that type of bundle that's made from heaven is not the type of thing that people store away. And therefore, the rabbis do not make a zera in such a situation. We are now on 13a1. 13a1. Then the Gemara says, if you have this, see Amar of Gidul Amarav. See, it's like the third paragraph on the page. It's on the left side, first paragraph. Amar Gidul Amarav, Hayafkuta de Dikla, the Afkuta de Dikla Mesachim Bahu. You could go ahead and use, morning Max. You could use this Afkuta de Dikla. You could use this these shoots that come out from the palm tree. Because afagav dagidi, even though they're tied together, but we say eged b'dei shemayim lo shmei eged. If it's tied from heaven, that's not considered a tie. So that's what the Gemara says. And then the Gemara, just to bring everybody up to date, remember there was a concern. The rabbi said you can't take a bundle of wood and place the bundle. A bundle means that it's tied together. You can't place it as schach. Even though you could say, what's the problem? Why can't I place a bundle of wood as schach? It grew from the ground of wood. It's not makabel toma. It doesn't receive contamination. It's separated from the ground. It's not any more connected to the ground. What's the problem? So we said, the Gemara said, we're afraid if you use this bundle, if you have some other bundles that you might have placed on a hut earlier in the summer, you might say, if I could use this bundle, I could go ahead and just go to sleep and use that other place as a sukkah also. And that's not a kosher sukkah because it wasn't made for the purpose. The other sukkah was made, the bundle was placed for the purpose of storage and not for the purpose of schach. And Al Gemara today says that even though this is a bundle that resembles this bundle of palm shoots that are together, but we say, since it was not tied by a person, the rabbis don't make a decree to forbid using such a bundle, as long as you're placing it with the intention of schach. We said one of the commentaries say that only on bundles that are commonly used, that are made to storage, the rabbis make the gezerah. And then the Gemara says, Afal Gav, the Hada Agidlahu, even though you go ahead and let's say you tie the top branches of this bundle, this naturally made bundle, you tie the top of this bundle, like make believe, like we said, take a mop with all those pieces coming out of the mop, and let's say you want to go ahead and you tied it on one side that it should be flat. So tying, that's not considered a bundle. Why not? The eged b'chad lo shmei eged. Be considered a bundle, you have to tie many things together. But if you're tying one item, we look at this natural bundle that came out of the tree, we look at it as one item. It's not individual sticks of wood that you tie together. If you have many sticks of wood, according to Yerushalmi, according to Tosfos, you have 25 sticks of wood, or according to Rashi, you have 3 sticks of wood tied together. That's called a bundle. But each wood is separate, and you went ahead and you put a tie around it. But here, since naturally they're all tied together, it's not considered individual items. Therefore, you would be if you tie one item. Let's say you take one piece of wood, and you tie a string around a piece of wood. Is that called a bundle? It's not a bundle. The fact that you tied it, it's not a bundle. Even if you take 2 pieces together and you tie it, it's not called a bundle, right? We'll see maybe more about that in our Gemara. According to Tosfos, you need 25 pieces of wood together to be considered a bundle. So even if you would have 25 shoots of the tree coming out as like in one connection, but we look at it as one item, because it's not that it was 25 individual things that were separated from each other and you subsequently went and tied it together. It was naturally, it came out of the tree together as one piece that's naturally connected. And therefore, we look at it, we consider it as if it's one item. So it's tantamount to taking one piece of wood and tying one piece of wood together, which would not be considered a bundle. Now, Amar Ravina bar Shila. So now the Gemara says similarly, we'll see a similar thing by a tree. Morning, Simon. That they call it cane stalks. It's a similar thing by the cane stalks, that if the cane plant also comes out with a lot of these canes, these shoots coming out together, you could have also, according to Tosfos, 25 pieces coming out together. According to Rashi, 3 pieces coming out together as one. But it's the same thing by the shoots that come out by the palm tree. On the bottom of the palm tree, that large amount that comes out together, it's the same thing. There's no difference between a palm tree, the halacha that we said, we consider as if it's naturally connected. It's not considered, we look at it like it's one thing. We don't look at it, it's 25 pieces together. Same thing by the cane stalks from the cane tree. Amar Chizam Ravina Bashila, Hani Dokri Dikane. The stalks of the cane plant that also comes out many at one shot together as a group. Afagav de Gidinino, even though the stalks are tied together, naturally tied together, nevertheless, I eged b'dei shemayim lo shmei eged. When it's tied together by heaven, through heaven, not that an individual tied it together, that's not called tied together. To be tied together is when a human being takes individual items and ties them together. But when it's naturally made that way, with Mishnei Shemayim, That's, you see, nature is b'dei shemayim. Nature is not something that's, how to happen. Who put together? So you see how the Gemara refers to the nature, of the growth of the item from the tree. It's called b'dei shemayim. People sometimes forget who's behind who put that together, who made that tree that way. You have to look at it. Remember, it's b'dei shemayim. Little musa that we see in the Gemara, and that's how the Gemara calls it b'dei shemayim. So afagav. So that's what the Gemara said. And the Gemara continues. Afagav the hoda agelu. Even though you might on your own after the cane stalks come out of you separate from the tree. You might tie it because they're all over the place. You might tie it to make it more to go be straight. So nevertheless, eged b'chad lo shmi eged. Same thing the Gemara said. It's like you're tying one item. We look at that group of cane shoots that come out of the tree. Just like we look at those shoots of the palm tree. If they're all naturally connected, it's like one piece. If they're like one piece, it's like you put a string around one piece of wood, which is not called a bundle. And therefore the rabbis don't make a gzeira in such a circumstance. And if you want to go ahead and take this bundle, so to speak, of cane shoots, or bundle of palm shoots, and throw it up on your sukkah to be schach, that's perfectly fine. Your intention is for schach purposes, and the rabbis didn't find it necessary to make a gzeira, to make a decree to forbade it, lest you go ahead and use a bundle that was previously placed on top of your sukkah, morning mars, for drying out purposes, for other purposes. Because this bundle doesn't resemble the common bundle. The common bundle is when you go ahead and you tie it together, and there the rabbis are concerned if you go ahead and you tie pieces of wood together and you throw it up for your schach, you might use some other type of bundle that was thrown up on top of a sukkah in the summer, not for the purpose of schach, but for the purpose of drying out. And therefore the rabbis were afraid of that. But if you're going to allow to use this, they're not going to, they're not worried about, they're not worried that it's going to come out that you're going to use a bundle that was stored for other purposes, for drying out purposes, because this is not the common type of bundle that people will store away. Good morning, Mr. Silverman. Okay, the Gemara says, Tanya Nami Hachi. We learned in a brisa this statement that was said by Rav Chizda. We are now on 13a1 on the right side. We're bringing a brisa to teach us, to support this teaching that Rav Chizda said that you could go ahead and use the cane stalks, that many pieces of cane stalks come out together, and even though it might resemble a bundle, but we don't make any gzeira. It's not the rabbis didn't feel it's necessary to make a gzeira on such an item. The Gemara says because we have a brayta. What does the brayta say? The brayta says if you went ahead, it says Tanim reads the Dukronim and Sachim. You could go ahead and use reeds, and you can use Dukronim. Now Rashi said Dukronim. Dukronim is like a certain. The Gemara was thinking it's a certain type of tool that you use, like a pick that you break open the ground. The Gemara was thinking. Just gonna get a little bit of water. The Gemara was thinking that the Dukronim is some sort of it's two different utensils the Gemara is saying over here, right? Dukronim, morning hara. The Gemara was saying the Dukronim and the konim and reeds you could use as schach to cover your sukkah. So to use reeds, we know is obvious. The reeds are the normal thing to use for sukkah. So the question is, what is the chiddush that the Gemara is saying that you can use a reed, right? So that's the Gemara's. It says in the Brisa. Excuse me. It says in the Brisa, you could use konim, you could use reeds, and you could use a decker. Dukronim is a decker. Decker is usually you want to go ahead and you want to, let's say, you want to go ahead and dig, get some dirt. You want to, you want, let's say you slaughter a bird and you want to cover the blood, right? The Torah gives a mitzvah to cover the blood of the bird, right? So a decker, thank you very much.
Kisui Hadam. I mean, Kisui Hadam you're talking about, Rabbi?
Kisui Hadam, yes. Kisui Hadam, morning, there's a special mitzvah in the Torah that you have to have, the blood of a bird has to be covered. When you slaughter a bird, it has to have dirt underneath, and it has to have dirt on top. And you have to cover the blood. Similarly, if you, a chaya, a wild kosher animal like a deer, also you would have to cover the blood. When we were studying for Succah in the yeshiva, we went to the slaughterhouse in Baltimore, where Rabbi Heinemann from Star K went to the slaughterhouse, and he asked the group, it was like a trick question. He asked the group, Rabbi Heinemann, what's happened? Why there was no? They were slaughtering the cows, and there was no. They weren't covering the blood. So he asked the question, why aren't we covering the blood? The answer is the Torah says only a chaya or a oaf, a bird or a wild animal, but a domesticated animal does not require covering the blood. So that was the trick question. But decker is usually affiliated with a utensil to go ahead and you want to, the hard dirt, you want to go ahead and get some soil, dirt to go ahead and cover the blood. So the Gemara says, the Brisa says you could use a decker, which the commentaries ask, what was the Gemara thinking that you could use a decker tool as schach? Because a decker's tool, by nature, a tool is a utensil. A utensil, even if a utensil is not kosher for that type of utensil that's made as a decker, should be able to makabel tumah, should be capable of contracting contamination. So what was the Gemara thinking that it might even that Breita even means that you could use this thing for schach? You wouldn't use a utensil, finished product for schach and that type of thing. But the Gemara was taking the words literally at this point. It says, and the Gemara is going to explain it. Kanim v'dukronim. If you have these reeds or these cane stalks and dukronim, you could use misachim behem. You could go ahead and use it for schach. You see, so the Gemara says kanim pshita. What is the Breita? Anytime the Breita tells us a law, it has to tell us something that we don't know, right? It doesn't tell us the obvious. It's not going to tell us that a person has to keep the Shabbat. You have to keep Shabbat. The Breita is not going to tell you that. A basic rule in schach on Sukkot is a reed. Reed is a kosher schach. Bamboo, reeds, these type of things. So what is the Breita telling me by saying that you could use a konim for schach? What does the Breita mean? So the Gemara says, rather you have to read it like this. Ema, it doesn't mean read. You don't read it as two different cases in the Breita that you could use this decker tool and you could use this konim, this reed, as schach. Rather, Ema, it's one case. Konim shel dukronim misachibu. You could use cane plants that have many stalks. That's how you're going to say the Breita doesn't mean that we're talking about tools. The Breita means a specific case, and there's a novelty to the case. What's the case of the Breita? That if it's many stalks that came out from the ground like from the cane plant. The cane plant could have many offshoots coming out as in one bundle. Naturally, you can have many pieces of shoots that come out together in a group. So the chiddush is you could go ahead and use that, so to speak, natural bundle of these cane shoots that came out of the plant, where so many come out at one time. You could use that for schach, even though it resembles a bundle, but the cane shoots is something that was made from heaven. It wasn't that you took individual pieces and you put it together to make it into a bundle. Rather, it came out from the tree as naturally as a bundle of many shoots together, and that's the chiddush of the Breita. Now the Gemara, we just made a statement from Rav Chizda Amar Ravina, right? He was the rabbi who spoke about these stalks of the cane plants. You could go ahead and use them, and you could use that for schach, right? That was his contribution, his chidush. Now comes the Gemara. Now the same rabbi, as you know, the Gemara likes to group many times different statements from the same rabbi, even though they're not connected together. What you could be talking about Sukkot, you could be talking about Pesach. What does Sukkot have to do with Pesach? Okay, there are connections, but they're not really the total. We have a Masechta Sukkah, we have a Masechta Pesachim. But sometimes they would like to group the rabbis. It's a way easy to remember. They would study orally, but easy to remember what the different statements of the rabbi. So here comes a statement from the same rabbi in a totally different subject. V'omar Rav Chizda Amar Ravina Bar Shila. Rav Chizda says the name of Bar Shila. This is the bottom of 13a1. Hani Morita de Agma. Regarding Mora, it's the bitter herb, which is called the Mora of the Agam. They translate it the Mora of the marsh. The Agam is like a swampy area. Morning, Aaron. So if you have this Mora of the Agam, it's called Mora of the Agam. Sometimes you have something called Florida fruit, the Florida oranges, right? That's the name, Florida oranges. This Mora is called Mora of the Agam, marsh. It's the Mora of the marsh. And you could go ahead and use this Mora to fulfill the obligation of the mitzvah of Mora. Now, in the Mishnah, in Psachim, it lists 5 different types of items that fulfill the mitzvah of Mora, like, romaine lettuce as one, endives, grounded horseradish. These are some of the items that are listed, and one is called, one of the 5 is actually called Mara, is on the list. And here we say that this fits in, one Yehuda, this fits into the Mara of the Torah. This is Mara. Even though it's not called Mara by itself, it's Mara of the Agam. The Mara of the Agam is considered also, it's called Mara. So now you can ask yourself the question, why not? What's the difference if it's called Mara of the Agam or Mara by itself? It's Mara. It's a bitter herb. So what's the chidush of Rav Chizda? So you'll see right now from the challenge of the Gemara, you'll get an appreciation of what the chidush is. Meitivei. I'll ask you the following question. Now the Gemara we are now turning the page. Mabruk 13a2. Meitivei. You hear Yehuda? He said the Mara of the Agam, you can fulfill the mitzvah of Mara. So the Gemara says, I'll ask you from a Mishnah in the Goim. It says Azov. It says the Torah talks about the hyssop plant, the grass. The Torah talks about you have to go ahead. We found that in Mitzrayim, when we came out of Egypt, Hashem says, go ahead and take a bundle, agudat ezov, a bundle of hyssop, and dip it into the blood from the animal, from the carbon pesach, slaughter the sheep, dip it into the blood and put it on the doorpost. Hashem will go ahead and skip over the Jewish home, and there won't be any makat, machorot. There won't be any, right, Aaron? There won't be any punishment, plague to the Jewish home. So the Torah
That was
says,
midah, Rabbi, that was the midah because they dipped Yosef's coat in the blood.
okay, so that would be a kaparat. Now they're doing a mitzvah with the dipping of the blood. Very good. Dipping of the blood for a purpose of a mitzvah. The Torah talks about paraduma. When you go ahead and you sprinkle the ashes, on the person, you take an azov. Mechatat, you take a hyssop, and you go ahead and you dip it into the ashes that were mixed with the water, and then you sprinkle on the person or on the utensils. The Torah referred to the idea of azov. Tosfos points out that there is a gezerah shaveh. We learn out that the same way that over there by Pesach, it refers to agudat ezov, a bundle of ezov. So too, by the halacha of sprinkling the ashes of the paraduma, also has to be a bundle. Okay? It has to be a bundle of ezov. But our Gemara at this point is focusing not on the bundle aspect, it's on the aspect of what's called hyssop. But the Torah says, I want you to take an ezov. And the Torah also talks about the ezov is also about when you throw it into the burning of the paraduma, also ezov. Torah talks about in the processing and by the mitzorah. There's also by the person who has leprosy. Ezov is also used in the process over there. The ezov, this hyssop, is used in many instances. So what is called ezov? What is kosher for ezov? So we say the following: ezov, when the Torah says ezov, it has to be ezov v'lo ezov yavon. It can't be ezov yavon. If something is known as ezov yavon, the Greek ezov, it's a different name. It's not known just ezov. It's called the Greek azov, or it's azov kuchli, or it's the blue azov, v'lo azov midbari. It's like the azov that grows in the desert, the desert azov. That is not the azov that lo azov romi, not the Roman azov. It has to be azov that's just known as azov. V'lo azov romi, v'lo azov sheish b'shem lavai. If it has any other name that describes the azov that's not regular azov, you have, let's say, there's something called Coca-Cola, then there's Coca-Cola this type, there's Coca-Cola Diet Coca-Cola, then there's other types of Coca-Cola, there's sugar-free Coca-Cola, there's all different types of Coca-Cola. But there's one Coke, there's one standard Coca-Cola, without all the other names. So if there's something it's not in the original, it's not the regular, normal azov, it's something different. It's just, obviously, if you call you call something the Greek azov, the Roman azov, the blue azov. Why? It has a new identity. It's not just, you want to have some Coca-Cola? It's Coca-Cola. If you want some other type of Coca-Cola, you say, I want diet, I want this, that's a different type. I don't know if that's a good example of Coca-Cola, but you get the picture. Right. So that's going to be the Gemara's question. That's going to be exactly the Gemara's question. You hear what Daniel said? When it comes to azov, we said it's very specific. He said, the Torah says azov, it has to be azov. It can't be if it has some other identity. If it's known for something else, it's not just known as azov. It's known as azov yavan. It doesn't work. And yet, when it comes to mara, we said if something the Torah says I want you to use mara, yet if it's called mara da'agam, has some other name, it's okay. That's going to be the contradiction. What's the difference between mara of the when it comes to Pesach, I can't have an additional name, and when it comes to Azov, Mara could have additional name, and Azov cannot. That's the Gemara's question. So, Omar Abaye. So Abaye says, and like the way the commentaries explain, like I mentioned, the fact that it has the Azov has another name to it means that it's not the regular. It's something different. It's a different species. It's unique. This is unique. The Greek Azov, the blue Azov, is different than the regular Azov. That's why you identify it with another name. It's the same. You want to Diet Coke could be like regular Coke. You don't have to call it Diet Coke. Just it's Coke. Can I have some Coke? But the Gemara says, Amma Abaye. So how do we explain this apparent contradiction? Amma Abaye. Ko shenishtane shmo kodem matan Torah. If anyone had other names, different names before the Torah was given, let's say before the Torah was given, you see, before the Torah was given, let's say there was something called blue Azov. Or there was, morning, Mr. Shaver, morning. So the Azov existed. There was all different types of the world, that there was different types of Hissip. It was known, it was identified already with different names. We're talking about the Azov, the grass that was used, that when you would sprinkle the ashes of the paraduma, you have to use there's a certain Azov, certain grass that you would use to dip into the water and to sprinkle on the person. Or even when the Torah says, when they would dip the Azov into the blood of the Korban Pesach to put on the doorpost. When the Torah said Azov over there were many types already Azov, that things were known for with other, you called many different types of Azov. There's the blue Azov. It was known already as the blue Azov. Or was known there were other countries that already had Azov. And then the Torah says, but the Torah, and when the Torah goes ahead and says, I want you to take Azov, the Torah said just the word Azov. In all the places, the Torah mentions Azov many times, and it doesn't say an additional name to the Azov. It doesn't say, take a blue Azov. You see, if the Torah wasn't particular about a specific type, the Torah could have mentioned in different places different types of Azov to use. And when you say you can use this type of Azov, that type of Azov, that would seem to indicate that we're not particular about a specific type. Because I tell you, what you have, Diet Coke, regular Coke, caffeine-free Coke, whatever. There are many. I can tell you to use many different things. I'm not particular. But if when something has many names already before the Torah was given, and then the Torah says is very specific. It just mentions, I want this Azov. I want the generic or the regular classic Azov. The Torah was very specific. Take Azov to be a dua sheyesh lo shem levai. Therefore, if it has some other name, then that's not what Hashem wants. Because if Hashem wouldn't mind you taking any type, it could have told you take this. It could have mentioned other types as well. It did not need to just stick with one type. However, Vahani, but when it comes to Mora, the bitter herb for Pesach, the Torah says, take Mora, I want you to take a bitter herb. All of those species, whether it was bitter herbs, let's say something was called Mora de Agam, Mora that came from the marsh, Mora from the swamp. That was also, when the Torah was given, that was known as Mora. It wasn't known as, it didn't have, the Moras did not have their own identity earlier. It wasn't so that it didn't have a separate name that it was commonly known as with another title. with two names. If the Mara would have been known with multiple names, something would have been called Mara de Agam, Mara of this, and the Torah says specifically, I want Mara. That means I just want that the regular Mara. But since all the bitter herbs before the Torah was given, they were all called Mara. Like a lot of times you could have certain items that are different, but are classified as one, are referred to as one, human beings. We have different types of human beings, but we're all humans. We're all under that category, can be categorized as human. So the Mora was all the different types of bitter herbs were all called one, they're all called Mora. They're identified as Mora. So the fact that today we are more specific in how we refer things to things. Today we identify this as Mora of the Agam, Mora of the marsh. And we call this type of Mora morning. But since we need to fulfill, we're interested in finding out, are we eating the Mora of the Torah? When the Torah said the word Mora, at the time that the Torah was given, 2448, when the Jewish people came out of Mitzrayim, and God gave the Torah at that time, and when he said the word, I want you to have Mora, I want you to eat the matzot, u'morim yochluhu. What was called Mora? What was called bitter herbs? So if it grew by the marsh, by that type of swampy area, even though today we call it Mora of the Agam, in those days, you know what they called it? Mora. At that time, they didn't call it that extra name, the way we did today refer to it. And because at the time the Torah was given, it was known as Mora, so it fulfills the responsibility, the obligation of Mora. That is called Mora. So that's what the Gemara says. Vahani lo nishtainu mishtainam shemayo kodem Torah cloud. It's not a different name. It's the same name it was known for at the time the Torah was given. It was called Mara. So therefore, you could use the Mara of the Agam. You could use it for Mara. Rava says, really, Hani Merita Stamashamayu. Really, even today, it's not, when you look at the marsh, when they call it the Mora of the marsh, it's not telling you that it's really a different type of Mora. It's identifying, it's like, we have Diet Coke. Diet Coke is different than regular Coke. It's not the same. It's not that the Mora of the Agam is a different Mora. It's really the same Mora. It's the same, it tastes similar. It's not different. It's only telling you where it grows, made in China, made in Mexico. When you call it Mora of the Agam, you're just saying it grew by the marsh. It grew by the swampy area. But it's not identifying it's a different type of Mora. Meaning maybe, if it would be a different type of Mora, like we find, there's the regular hyssop and there's the blue hyssop. The blue hyssop is different. It's blue. It's not whatever, it's called the blue hyssop. It's not the regular or the hyssop that grows in Rome or Italy. It's different. The taste is different. Certain things are different. So therefore, it's different. However, here, this Mora of the Agam, they're both the same. The only thing is, you just want to identify where it came from. That's why it's called Mora Agam. It's not really the morning. It's not Chodesh Tov. It's not really different. And therefore, the Gemara says, the Karli Marisa the Agma. Why is it called Mora of the Agma? Mishum the Mishtakach the Agma. Because they're found in the Agam. They're found in this swampy area. And therefore, you could use this marsh, this Mora of marsh, for the mitzvah of Mora. We should be zocheh to have the Korban Pesach back, and we can fill the mitzvah of Mora on a Torah level. Today, when we eat Mora at the Pesach, it's a rabbinic mitzvah to remember the Mora that was eaten with the Korban Pesach, time of the Beit HaMikdash. We should remember to have that mitzvah on a Torah level again. I want to wish everyone a Chodesh Tov. Everyone should remember to mention Ya'aleh v'Yavo in the Amidah at Shachrit and Mincha today, and in your
Dr.
Birkat
Baruch, Rabbi.
Hamazon or whatever. Have a great day, everybody.
Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov, everybody.
Everybody.
We want to thank Daniel Shalom for always his involvement in the